take a look at the updated Anniversary Rewards dev blog. Now, this is kind of interesting. You may recall, we looked at the Anniversary Rewards dev blog last time. The decision was basically, it felt like we were getting a lot less than previous. So let's see what they've come up with. Based on your feedback, we've updated the 8th Anniversary Rewards and are ready to share all the details. Last week, we gave you the initial plan. Each year, we like to take this opportunity to celebrate the game's birthday together with you as a thank you for sticking with us for such a long time. So nice. Over the last couple of years, we've been consistently changing and adapting our anniversary as the game evolved. Okay. This year's system was changed to be a currency-based one. Love their tokens, don't they? That still follows our original principle. The more ships you own, the more rewards you will earn. Additionally, our new system allows you to collect rewards that are more valuable to you. We added interesting new rewards, such as a direct purchase option for the Tier 8 Premium Cruiser Fired. We agreed that that was a neat idea. If you already own it, you get a 100% coupon for a different Tier 8 ship from an expanded list. That was also nice, although, frankly, the expanded list wasn't that expanded, right? We agreed there were a lot of other ships that would have been nice to have.
It's still better a list than the trade-in list is.
It absolutely is. Absolutely is. If you have all those ships, you'll be compensated with 3,000 steel. Now, recall that was mentioned in the original dev blog. We asked about it on the CC Discord, and we were told that that's what be compensated. One of the cornerstones of this event in years past was earning super containers for each 10 ship owned. About that, fine. Well. Alright. Must have more tokens, as Griffin said, and Duckman said this was received very negatively on the Ouija stream. Talk about this particular dev blog. We saw your feedback. Uh-oh, we got a raid from Cheg! Cheg, welcome aboard! Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Cheg, we're talking about the dev blog right now. There's a shout-out for Cheg and a link to his chat. Thank you, Cheg, for doing... You're reading the actual apology. That's crazy.
My stream with 44 viewers.
Oh, welcome aboard, everybody. I'll thank you in a minute. I want to get through the talking about this first. We saw your feedback about the justice system. Oh, and you're giving Steve bacon. Thanks for that. And your concerns regarding players who own a very high amount of ships and limitations super containers introduces here in combination with the currency. You may recall that there was a dev blog that said we gave out too many, essentially said we gave out too many super containers last year, so we cheapened the super containers so that next year we're not like giving out too much again. We heard you and wanted to apologize. We decided to make the following changes. You can now purchase up to 100 super containers. 110, I mean. Okay.
That covers probably all the super ships and all the tier 10s. Let me find the old dev blog.
Okay.
Because no, they had this list. No, I posted it in your Discord, I think, where they said how many tier 10 and tier 11 ships there are actually in the game, right?
I think you posted it in the Discord. I can try to find it, but if you don't mind searching for me, it would save some time. Both tier 10 and super ships will earn 200 tokens per battle performance bonuses. Each super container will cost 200 anniversary tokens. We moved the bundles for 400. Okay. You cat, thank you. He's 19 years old. So I'm glad you got to see him. I don't know. Had a scare a month ago. We thought we were going to have to put him to sleep.
Found it, Sarah. 85 tier 10s, 18 super ships. According to their graphic. Maybe the numbers are not true anymore with the new ships they added this patch. I don't know.
Right. So I mean,
110 seems more than we have.
Yeah, that's close to 100 in any case, and so adding these, well, whatever. I'm glad they got rid of the bundles for more tokens. That to me kind of seems silly too. Just let people enjoy the game and look. I wanted to say this. I should have said this in the other one. It literally cost them nothing. Give you all a super good.
It is a slight nerf on the earning, though. Super ships in the old blog used to give 300 tokens.
I was gonna ask that. Okay. But like I said, it's digital stuff, guys. It costs them nothing. And who in my opinion, who the F cares if players get, on average, one more premium ship out of these super containers? That's not necessarily going to ruin the pocketbooks. And in fact, a matter of fact, it might actually encourage players to stick around because they're like, oh, I got this new ship, I want to play it more, or I got, whatever. This change
I
enables...
feel it's kind of redundant.
What's
Because like the players who complain about they have so many ships and they get less rewards, they get more super containers now, but they're not gonna get a ship out of a super container because they already have all the ships.
Right, so what are they gonna get? They're gonna get doubloons instead, which is what I get all the time. I'm cool with it. Whatever. The point I'm trying to get at is, or maybe they'll get more steel. Maybe they'll get 1 or 2 more super containers with steel. Let's be real. Does that impact Wargaming's pocketbook? I don't think so. I don't like the idea that somebody not able to buy a ship because they get it for free means that's less revenue for the... Personally, I dislike that idea, because if it encourages players to keep playing, that's a win for Wargaming, because they might keep spending too if they keep, or they might get other friends through the center to play the game. So I'm just putting that out there. Cheg, it really does. Hey, you want to join my Discord real quick and jump in? You're welcome to, Cheg. That way we're not talking about stuff through chat back and forth. You're welcome to come on in, by the way. We're in the general voice. No other company gives as much as Warships. I do agree with that. The reason I'm bringing this up is for my personal experience playing this game. What kept me this game before as a CC, a wiki, that garbage. What kept me playing was actually contests, opportunities to win things. iChase's Monday Rules, for example, or on the forums, there was Super Nico Power, who kept on fighting for giveaways of like the new premium ships that were released. And that's what kept me going. That's what kept me playing this game, because I could never purchase a thing in this game. Never, ever, ever purchase a thing in the game. My wife simply wouldn't allow it. And I know that might sound silly, whoosh, whoosh. But my wife and I, we always discuss purchases. We always talk through. And when we were doing the close beta, they had the bundles for $75 to get in time. No way in hell would I have been able to buy that. I wanted to. Just, wasn't going to happen. So, Cheg is coming in. So we might see him for a second. I'll kind of pause there for a second. People with limited budget and won't be buying everything. I don't believe giving one extra ship will change that anyway. It's a good way for new players to keep up a little. Yeah. I trust there are waifu compensations.
That's the thing, though, right? I think Wargaming was really giving out a lot of stuff for new players. The people who complained most about this event were the ones that pretty much have everything already, which is the baffling part to me.
Why is it baffling to you, sir?
Like, it sounds a bit greedy, to be honest. It's always like, I want all this free stuff, and I want even more free stuff and more free stuff, despite me having already everything. And it feels like they just can't get enough.
I just can't get enough. Okay, fair enough.
Hi,
Cheg.
Hi, I don't know how loud this is. It's a brand new microphone, so I'm talking very low so you can fix it.
No, talk normal, and I can fix right now.
Okay, but now this is normal, okay?
Okay, I think we're good, chat. You can tell me if Cheg sounds okay. So, welcome aboard, and thank you again for the raid.
Thank you. Yeah, no worries, man. Always pleasure to raid, a calm and cozy place. Also, it's great to see that little warrior still being around. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's getting slower. He's eating less. So his days are numbered. But let's hope we have as many of those numbers as possible.
I agree.
So we were talking and about free stuff being considered less income, and you said you disagree about that from your perspective.
So I can't, like, I have to be a bit careful here because I'm still under a lot of NDAs. For those who
course.
don't know, I used to work for Wargaming until a month and a half ago, um, as a community engagement manager, and such. I could see certain numbers, and it definitely does affect uh, not only the economy like directly, but also what you are saying is that it sounds counterintuitive, but the more ships you have, the less, like, we have to step out of our bubble of being content creators, right? The more ships you have, the less reason you have to play, and you would think like people get more stuff, they will play more, but in reality, it beats the purpose of a game that has such deep progression. For
Okay.
example, while I was working for Wargaming, I got to a point where I researched every single Tech 2 ship, and then on top of that, working there, I would get a couple of ships here and there. Now I got to almost everything, and I would catch myself playing my NA account where I had only 2 tech trees more often than my main account, because it just didn't feel like I have anything to chase anymore. So, and then we have
Okay.
to understand that these gifts, quote unquote, um, were designed 7, or I don't know, like 6 years ago, when the number of ships was much lower, and you could get a couple of super containers. And back then, it made a lot of sense. Um, and then, and then it just over bloated because of how many tech trees and premium ships and special ships VG pumps out, right? Which, not even getting into like if this is good or bad or whatever, right? Everyone will have a take on that, but it's insane the amount of containers you could get back like 5 years ago and now, and it's just like not really sustainable system, if that makes sense.
So
It's
you're
also like, sorry.
you're describing kind of like something like this, a backwards bending curve, where the more ships you have, at a certain point you kind of reach a climax to that, and then you slow down playing this game. That's kind of what you're trying to say.
Yes, unless you have other ties to it. So if you're a content creator, obviously having more stuff for content is good, right? And you have other incentives to play the game, like, it doesn't matter, like growing your community or making money or whatever, or if, let's say, you are a competitive player, so then you're playing with the which is a minority of players, right? Like people who play in big groups together, so clan battles, tournaments, and stuff like that. So this will keep you in the game because not because of progression, right? It's gonna keep you in the game because you have other reasons to stay in the game, right?
Okay.
Like there's something else tying you to it. But the huge majority of players, just like in any other MMO, which is maybe a sad reality of today's gaming, is people are playing alone more often than not. And what keeps the average player in game at most is actual progression and feeling that you're getting more because you invest time, you're getting better. World of Warships is very good at showing you that your skill is getting higher as you play the game, especially if you stick to similar types of ships, right? And then the other one is just like getting more, amassing your wealth in in-game content, kind of. So if you take this away, yeah, it actually has kind of a negative effect.
Okay. Now let's bring. I want to mention something important too. I see a lot of people in chat disagreeing with you, and I want to point out, those of you in chat right now. First of all, thanks for being here. Second of all, I would say, you all are probably the most engaged of the player base, right? Want to be here to get the drops. I should have my special drop active now. You guys are here for more stuff, and that's awesome. But let's be real. If you were to combine every person that watches any stream World of Warships, any World of Warships stream on a given day, month, whatever, it's probably a small percentage of the overall player base who play.
Silly number.
It's like
Not
Reddit,
only
right?
Twitch and
think
YouTube together,
Yeah.
like we live in a bubble where we don't have and I say this for myself because before I started working wargaming, I streamed for 5 years. I played World of Warships for 5 years, and I'm one of the one of us on Twitch. So I lived in this same bubble, and then I went to work there and saw the numbers and I was like, oh my god, our bubble is so small compared to the player base. It's actually ridiculously slow. Small.
The silent minority, or the silent majority is a meme, but it's real, right?
Oh, it's very real.
Well, and that's what we're kind of saying exactly. And I love it, Big Gunner. You're not engaged, and your girlfriend's annoyed at that. Well, fix it, dude.
Also,
Anyway,
I want to come back to that gift thing though. Like, what it also does is like the rich get richer with it, right? It widens the gap between a newer player that gets few rewards and the veteran player that has lots of ship and gets even more rewards and gets even further ahead of them.
so what you're saying, Grunty, is that somebody that's, say, here on the chart is going to get more rewards because they have more ships, and therefore that's going to move them more quickly to this part of the chart where they're starting to play a little bit less.
Kind of, yeah, right?
Right?
Mhm.
Whereas somebody who is in the earlier stages of the game has fewer ships, they're not going to get so much, so that's only going to move them a small amount. That's
I
kind
mean,
of
you
what
guys
you're
have
trying to
proof for this. You have proof of this happening for years, basically. Look at the influx of people playing only during Christmas and anniversary, trying to get that Smaland or one or two ships that are missing in their in their collection, and they're gonna burn themselves in these 2 patches just to complete what is there. This
I used
ties
to do
into
that.
also, no, of course, like I know a lot of people who do, and then on top of that and I'm in this crowd as well. Don't get me wrong. I think wargaming is pumping way too much content.
Yes.
But at the same time, if we don't have it, what are we going to do? Like what? I'm so happy that now I'll have to grind, 2 more ships in Spanish line, and there's a dockyard because what else am I going to do in the game? You know what I
You
mean?
know what? I just thought of this. It's almost like they're taking this and they're trying to move it this way by putting so much more content in. Right?
Yeah.
Especially for the people
Absolutely,
that are at
100%.
the top in there. That
How's it
makes
going,
sense.
Zath?
Hi, Nifty. Let me turn you down just a tad here. You're coming through real loud. Say something in if you don't mind.
Me?
Testing,
Yeah?
testing.
Oh.
1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. 4,
Okay.
5, 6.
Thank you,
All right.
Nifty. I think I got you about dialed in. But
All right, cool.
So I just want to comment on something. I'm looking at chat right now. I want to read a couple of things that they say out loud here. Camo says, why I play less today is not that I have a lot of ships. He's got 466 in port. That's a lot. Compared to most players, that's
That's
I
good.
would,
Huge
I'd say you're
amount.
probably in the top 10% or even maybe top 5.
Oh,
I play,
yeah.
I play less today because the way wargaming are going and things, it's wrong what they do. I really love this game because it's unique in its own state. Yeah, I love it too. I will also cop to the fact I'm playing it less as well. I play it mainly when I stream, and that's about it.
Hey, Camo, what's up? So I kind of want to jump in because personally, I haven't spent any money on the game in a few years. And the one thing that really makes me want to play is when they have a good event where I know I'm not going to have to spend a bunch of doubloons to earn things in return. And I have a ton of ships, and I mean, I understand the idea that you're saying that, oh, if you have a lot of ships, there's not as much to do in the game, but you gotta remember they're releasing content all the time. There's always something new to get. But if you're just starting out in the game, they really don't give you as many opportunities to get a free premium ship. Like the West Virginia was something I came back and I got, and I was really excited for, and I spent, hours and hours trying to grind up that ship because it was one I didn't have on either of my accounts. And those are the kind of events that really bring people into your game. You can do events like that year-round without having to make people feel forced to, spend dubs. I mean, you're not forced to spend dubs, so that was maybe... But, you know what I mean?
But we have that. Like, I don't...
There is
We just
three
got
events.
2... free ships tier like we just got Jaeger. I got it on
Jaeger.
2 accounts, and now we're doing Somme, which I'm gonna get on 2 accounts as well. And I didn't spend any doubloons on it. And you
It was-
mentioned
It was 3. You're forgetting the Brisbane.
I'm not,
Yeah, the
I'm not,
web
but like
campaign.
these 2 were like last 2 patches. Yeah, I got the.
Oh,
Brisbane
I was
as well.
talking like this year. Like,
Yeah, so there's a lot of that. But also keep in mind that you're already hooked on the game. Like these are different targeting, you know. Like you need different kind of strategies to keep people involved in the game.
For sure.
So-
And I mean, they do have events like that, but the time investment you have to put in is quite a bit. So if you think about it, no, you're not spending the dubs, but the time you're investing to do like all the Jaeger missions, for instance, is quite a bit. So I think that's kind of a fair return, right? I mean, you worked hard for the Jaeger, right?
And that's why it feels good when you get it. Because if it was
Yeah.
easier, it just wouldn't have the same effect.
it's still a completely free premium equivalent ship. Like, if you look at other games, like, where do you get that kind of stuff for free? World of Tanks doesn't give you a tier 9 for free, for example, yet alone a tier 10.
Well, I don't know if we should look at other wargaming games and compare them to this. I
So-
mean, we'd want to look at other MMOs,
I mean,
right?
isn't that
Let
kind
me-
of the point a lot of the people try to make, that they're not gonna get enough free stuff in this game?
Let me take a second and give you an example of a different game then. And that would be, of course, everybody's meme game, Raid Shadow Legends. When I stream Raid, and I go through and, you know, get sponsorships from them from time to time, right? One of the themes that I like to say is, hey guys, this is how far I've come without spending much in the game at all. I mean, they gave me money to spend and compensated for it. Of course I'll spend it. But beyond that, I haven't spent any real money. And my content, I always like to show what you can achieve with free champions in that game, the free characters. And you can actually go really far with the free stuff. That being said, it takes a lot of time and effort put into it to make that happen. So I can see that argument of saying, hey, you know, some of the free stuff we give you, I mean, we've seen Jaegers doing tremendously ridiculous things in battle, for example. So just because it's free doesn't mean it has to be a crap ship.
I mean, Jutland is such a good ship, no? And now we're getting it as premium. I don't
So
think
we get-
anyone can argue that Somme is a bad destroyer.
Right,
You can
it's
already
second.
get the Jutland, though, right? I mean, on the tech tree. So
Yes,
course.
now you have it
I
as
feel like
premium,
that's kind
right?
of a silly thing to. I personally am not a big fan of like, oh, we're gonna make this tech tree like what's the end game to that realistically when you can just grind out the ship?
You can
If
make
you
more
like the
money with it
Jutland, now
without
you have two
investing money.
Jutlands.
Yeah. Well,
Tier 9 is the best moneymaker tier in the
Yeah.
game for a free-to-play player.
and
That's
now it's
another
premium,
point.
right?
And, assuming they know how to play the ship. Obviously, like if someone just dies instantly, they're not gonna make credits, but...
I mean, when they released Star Kitakaze, for example, I loved it because Kitakaze is fun as heck to play, and if I'm resetting that Japanese gunboat line all the time, now I have a Kitakaze always available to me while I'm resetting that line. There, battle season, something that was tier 9 that I remember regretting, you know, resetting the Japanese gunboat line for, because I didn't have my Kita available when I needed it. Now,
Mm.
there it is. So, I would say, I don't personally have a problem with them taking a tech tree ship, putting it out there, and maybe, I guess you could say, slightly monetizing it, depending on how much effort people are willing to put into that. That's what I talked about way back. Everybody called the Puerto Rico, the initial one, Puerto Rico. If they just took the time to look at, and this was a bad release on Wargaming's part, at least the information for how to understand how all the boosters worked and that sort of thing. Guys, the Dockyard events now are actually grindier and more expensive than the original Puerto Rico was, but everybody called the
And less
original Puerto
rewards.
Rico garbage.
Yeah.
So-
That's the funny part, right? Like everybody's happily playing the starter bundles. They're happily paying doubloons for extra phases to get a tiny amount of steel on top of it.
Right.
And nobody's complaining about that. But the original Puerto Rico, and oh my god.
Well, it doesn't matter how you serve the food. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
it's
so
I mean,
It's a
it
big
was
difference.
poorly communicated.
It
I
works.
totally get it. But if you compare how much you actually had to spend and how the dockyards are now, it's
A lot
assess
more.
that it's actually cheaper and easier.
Yeah, but they used to give out a premium ship like in the middle of the dockyard, and that was something that everybody could grind to regardless of whether they were going to finish the dockyard or not. And you don't get that anymore, correct? That's not something they've done
they
in a
have
while.
done this in the first couple of dockyards after the Puerto Rico, I think, but yeah, they stopped it, which is
It's kind of a bummer because
this is not quite true, guys. This is not like a rule where they did like 3 and then stopped. It's more of like some dockyards you're gonna get it and some you won't. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see it again later. This dockyard, to be fair, I was checking it today because I play free-to-play account that has 4 tier 10s, and seeing like free 14 days of premium, you get like 25,000 qual or 30,000 qual for free. You get like 12 blue boosters of each. Like there's a lot of free stuff to be earned. I gotta feel like dockyards without. Today, someone asked me in my stream, "Hey, should I brand new player use the referral code yesterday?
Oh, wow.
Started playing." And they asked me, "Hey man, should I spend for Lucian?" And I was like, "Look, if you have the money and you want to spend it, like the problem with dockyard ships is the FOMO, obviously." And I explained it, like you get it now or you don't get it. That's it.
FOMO,
But in
by the
all
way,
honesty,
guys, is sorry, check one sec. FOMO is
Yeah.
fear of missing out, which basically means if I don't get the ship now and Wargaming never puts it up on sale again, I'm out of luck, especially if it turns out to be a very powerful ship like Smolensk, Belfast, etc.
Exactly, yeah. But other than that, for a new player, he asked me, like, as a new player, am I missing out? I said no. And as a matter of fact, just by playing the game, this dockyard will help you progress through your tech trees much faster. And I think dockyards are very healthy apart from FOMO part. And then for when it comes to that, I mean, you just need to. I just always hope that people who spend money on the game can spend this money, right? Like this is the big part for me, because please, no one should spend money that they cannot spend just to get another ship. Like there's. Yeah.
I guess that's my only gripe, right? Some people you buy the starter package because you want to save the doubloons, as it's cheaper than the individual faces buying in the end, and then for whatever reason you don't get to do all the missions or whatever, missing tokens, and then you're kind of forced to spend even more to complete it because you've already invested in the starter package.
Yeah, the
but
starter
that's
pack is kind of a trap, a little bit.
I mean, it is a kind of a trap. It's easy to avoid to some extent. Like, you can plan as much ahead as you want and look at all the missions and see if you can do it, but there's always something that can come up.
Yeah, I think so the dockyard, right? Like, the point I was making about not getting the ship in the mid tiers is also that, when you're looking at it, I know you said it's not a rule, and you're right, it's not, but regardless, you're getting less overall from the dockyard, right? And now you're getting less overall from the super containers, and you're getting less overall from the economy. So you're seeing all these things slowly getting nerfed, and you're talking about new players coming in. New players want to get the ships. New players want to get their tier 10s. They want to play with their friends and stuff like that. And you're making it harder and harder and harder for them to obtain new ships in the long run.
So,
right?
Real quick, one thing I want to mention, I would like to catch up with chat and say what some people in chat have been saying to the group, but I want to respond to that real quick, Nifty. We see a lot of people complaining about players, especially in the higher tiers, tier 10, 9, that quite frankly have no business being there. So I'm kind of okay with it taking longer for players to grind up to that point, because, hey, when I was playing the game originally, when I was your age, it took me forever to grind up the Zao, for example, and others, because I didn't have all those crazy boosters on top of, whatever that happens now. Now you've got the Battle Pass, you've got, your 200, 100% boosters. Some people may be, get the reds, but I really do feel like it's a lot easier to progress up these tech trees now than it did,
You
5 or 6
you
years.
needed like 200 game if you're an average or just under average player from like Iowa to Montana.
Mhm.
And now you need like 7 games with the blue booster, which you can get just by playing the game.
I don't remember
It's
how much,
crazy.
but I think it took me at least 500 games to get my first tier 10 back in the time when I started, right when it got released.
Like from tier 1 to tier 10.
Yeah,
So-
Sounds about fair, yeah.
I already had the advantage that I knew the game because I already played the closed beta. So that surely shut down how many games I needed when the game was actually released to get to tier 10. But
Here's-
compared to what it takes now, it's crazy. Like, I actually wish I could look it up how many games it took me back in time to get to
Of course you
tier 10.
can.
But
Look
So
up
Zath-
an older ship. Like for example, here's the Ibuki. Right, I reground the line once, but you know that was with 200% first win and like full boosters because you know I could. So it only took me like 5 games to do it. Here's 46 battles with the Ibuki. What's the most? What's the Pan Asian? Santander, the Pan American.
Santander.
All right.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's right. I did one because I grounded in another one. I'm trying to think about a tech tree line that I actually ground out the entirety of. Take a minute.
Des
or two.
Moines.
Maybe British battle cruisers.
Yes, actually, that was.
So Duncan.
Oh, nope, I must have grounded out a different game mode. I got in the habit of doing that because it was annoying to. But I'll find one. But anyway, go ahead, Nifty. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say that, like, I understand, and I've heard this complaint a lot of, like, oh, this person only has a couple hundred games, they're in tier 10 already, what are they doing? However, sincerely, I don't think that's the problem. I really don't, because I've seen players with 10,000 games, 12,000 games who are playing tier 10 matches, and they are no better than somebody with a couple hundred matches, sometimes, all right? I think
Right.
the real issue is the lack of resources in the game to teach players how to play their game. Because there
Well-
really are, like, hardly any. There's no tutorial or anything. It's just
There
you
is
get
one.
thrown in there, and you can spend God knows how long making the same mistakes and not even really realizing that those are mistakes you're making. You know what I mean?
Sure. Here's an example. Here's the Brindisi. I ground that out in 13 battles. Lepanto I ground out in 9. Big difference there compared to going back to that Ibuki that I was explaining. Okay, and this is just one example. I don't want to take time looking through stuff, but let's take a moment and let's just look at chat. I want to read off what some of chat's saying because obviously, guys, it's important that you're commenting too. Ujam says, when you first started playing in 2017 and saw the anniversary rewards, you wanted to grind the rest of the line as fast as possible. You saw that carrot on the stick, and you wanted that carrot, and it was going to take you a while. So what you're saying is, when you first started playing, you were definitely playing a lot of battles. You were, you know, again, on that, you were on that left end and saying, hey, I want to play more. I want to get up to that point. Makes perfect sense. Trying to catch up with the rest of chat here. You sick of free-to-play games, have no problem ditching them like a bad burrito? That's also what Hucham says. And that's fair. They're bringing things into the game that not many are asking for. Example, subs. I remember seeing so many people saying, why don't they add subs? And people saying subs be terrible for the game. People saying, I don't care. I want subs. Now we have subs.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I see it, I agree with the whole put-in assessment, whereas he basically has said, like, hey, why aren't carriers and subs in clan battles, right? Like, if you guys put them in the game and they're good enough for randoms, why aren't they in clan battles? Go ahead, put them in and see if people like that,
Why
right?
aren't they in COTS?
Right?
because it's a different.
Because I am
format.
never going to put them in COTS.
Come on,
It's
Mini.
a different.
Why? They're balanced, right? They fit in
They
the
are-
game.
they are for a 12v12 format. Wargaming doesn't
Exactly.
really balance for 7v7 or 9v9 or whatever.
This is
Hey.
exactly the reason.
So cut the sub in half. And... Fine.
Going back to Nifty's point real quick, Nifty, because I got here, I think the point you missed there with your statement about you see players that are terrible at 10,000 games versus players that are terrible at 200 games misses the point that players that are at 10,000 games, by and large, most of them have improved. Do you still have some that are absolutely terrible? Yes. But the difference is you expect improvement after that number of games, whereas you expect the 200 game player to not know the mechanics yet because they're still learning the game. So it's the 10,000 game player that's bad is usually the exception, not the norm, whereas the 200 game player that's good is the exception, not the norm, if it makes sense. It's a vice versa.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that, sincerely, and I think that makes a lot of sense. It is definitely more of the exception. I just, like, when I look at like the economy the way it is now, I think for me regrinding in like EU was easy because I already knew what I was doing, right? I already had an understanding of like what ships I prefer and stuff like that. But if we want to bring players into the game, we gotta at some point let them get into the higher tier matches, whether they're ready for them or not. Personally, I don't care.
You
I
gotta
don't
do
care.
it fast as well. I'll give you a reason why. 7 years ago, guys, people were still playing RTS games and MMOs, and these genres died down. What is being played now is instant gratification games. So the current new player, which you want, if you want longevity of the game, does not want to sit and play 200 games in Iowa to get in Montana. You've lost them. They're gone. So you have to keep in mind the rate at which the player base, global player base of video games simply evolves, like at what pace and in which way. The game from 7 years ago is, it was fun for us to do that, but new player today, they just don't think like that. Because their gaming experience is trained by different games, like for example Fortnite or MOBA games or whatever. So it's completely different for a new player.
I
that's a good
understand
point.
that, but at the same time, their progression through the game on tiers and ships they get doesn't scale, or it doesn't go with the same rate as their skill increases.
Because we exist. That's the only reason. So if you nuked the game now and started over in a parallel universe, and everyone had this pace, it would be perfectly fine. The problem is you have people like us who have tens of thousands of games and the experience of how we got there and how beneficial it was for us. But it's a big hindsight.
Right. No,
There's a reason we have a battle limit requirement on COTS.
We do.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that. Really?
There is. We have it. It's been in the rule set for a while that you have to have 1,000 recorded random or ranked battles on their account or participated in an official Wargaming or Wargaming sponsored tournament in the past 6 months. That's
Only
been in there
1,000?
for a
That's not
while. Yeah. Oh, no, we didn't make it deliberately bad, but no, that's been in the rule set for a while.
And that's a fair thing because you're talking about like the top end, creme de la creme kind of, or what should be,
Of course. So, I just want to continue reading some of chat because, again, we've been kind of ignoring them, and I apologize for that, guys. It's just difficult with so many people in here talking to get to what you guys are saying at once. Yank says, I was worried at one point I missed getting the anchorage, but then it dropped last Christmas in a crate, so you don't panic anymore about missing a dockyard ship. Hey, cool. All right, so you had that experience. Goes back to, you want to work for it? Do you want to, pay for it, in a sense, for that RNG to get it or not? At the end of the day, is it going to matter if you have that ship? Is somebody going to say, I don't want you in this clan because you don't have XYZ ships? I would surely hope not. For once, I'm not going for a dockyard ship. This is Camo. I have too much volunteer work to do since you retired. Hey, that's fine too. The thing, I said this before about the original Puerto Rico when it comes to the dockyard and stuff is, guys, you've got a choice. And as long as you understand what your choice is and what the results of those, your choices are, make the choice that's best for you. there's nothing wrong with having a choice. We'd always love to be able to do everything, but yeah. So make a choice. At least you have the decision, you know?
It's nice to have options, for sure. And I think it's nice to, especially for an MMO like this, yeah, you want people to spend money on your game, right? But you also want to do something to keep the players who are really not willing to spend that much money in your game as well. And that's kind of a tricky balance, especially as the game ages and you get more things like in the game, right?
So Wolf says, I wish somebody had explained that to me back when I first started. I thought getting top tier was the goal, like a bunch of the FPS games. They could have all the cool stuff. I remember people saying, I've got 5 tier 10s, I'm better than you, in like a tier 5 game on Solomon Island. But the game is so much more and complex than that, though. Yeah.
People think it's a pay-to-win game. It's not a pay-to-win game. It's not even a pay-to-play. It's a pay-to-progress faster.
Yeah.
Game.
You see somebody, this is another one Camo says, when you see someone behind them in WoW's coming out a tier 10 premium ship they've just bought, get really mad. They're not ready for high tier, and you blame Wargaming for it.
You should blame Wargaming for it. Don't blame the player, though, because at the end of the day, players just want to play the game, right? And it's not their fault if they want to rush into higher tiers that they aren't ready for, because that's part of the system that they created that allows that to happen, right?
So,
and people want to play for fun. They don't necessarily play to win all the time. I mean, I personally play to win, but I'm not going to get super upset at that one guy that rushed in and died. It's, you know what I mean? It happens. Like, it just doesn't matter to me.
I have a Zath Chat.
Why do you have to blame anyone, if I may?
What was that, Jack?
Well,
why would you have to blame anyone? Like, why would you blame the player or the game? I mean, game needs to make money, and player did what the game allows, and that's just what the game is. I mean, I don't know.
And that's a good point, but I'm just saying, in that circumstance, like, you don't want to blame the player, because it's not their fault
100%.
for wanting to play the game, right?
So I had a Zath
agree.
Chat.
Yeah.
One of my previous Zath Chats was about why people play the game. And it was all about the different goals that you have as you progress. As a new player, of course, you want all the ships. And then the player that's starting, you know, working along that line, so to speak, now you want to improve and get good. And then at a certain point, you just want to keep winning and fix your win rate. After that, what? And Grunty can firsthand attest to the fact that, you know, there are multiple different perspectives when you play the game. And when you're in a division with people, my stream, you're not always looking for the win, right, Grunty?
You're never looking for the win.
Perfect.
I play for fun. I don't care. Honestly.
Honestly, I play to have a good time as well. And hey, sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. But the whole point I'm trying to get at is, you're exactly right. When you see people that have bought that tier 10 and, you know, aren't ready for the high tier, okay, there's other modes for them. You might suggest to them, hey, go up if you want to have fun and relax, etc., etc. Ultimately, it's up to every player to make a determination if they want to play this game or not, where they want to play, and all that. And while you might be upset at them for playing, there are so different variables. No, who's on the other end of that monitor that you're speaking to, maybe swearing at, chat, hopefully not, but you know, you don't know if you're talking to a disabled veteran. You don't know if you're talking to somebody who has terrible hand-eye coordination, somebody who's 75 and just wants to play this game because they love warships and just want to relax and have fun. Somebody who's 6 years old, logged into daddy's account and just wants to play. Maybe dad doesn't know even. So what I'm getting at is...
I hope not, considering this is Peggy 13, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, fine, a 13-year-old then, for God's sakes. But you get the idea I'm trying to make here. The point I'm trying to make
We
is...
actually have a lot of disabled people playing the game as well.
I know.
Yeah, there are.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
When we did player gatherings, I met a lot of those people. I couldn't believe it, and it helped me understand that not everybody is like me. Not everybody's a try-hard who's going to play and be so competitive and have to win every game, and what are you doing over there, blah, blah, blah.
I just wish the progression would be still a bit slower. Like, I get it what Jack said earlier, that in this current day, the gamers don't like they want the quicker rewards and the faster pace because that's what they're used to from other games. And I totally get that, but at the same time, I think that wargaming should adapt to that too and provide these players with tools to adjust their learning so they can learn quicker and keep up with that faster progression. And
Yeah.
I know we have this new tutorial thing now, but like what you learn in there, that doesn't really translate to what you see if you then buy yourself a tier 9 or tier 8 premium ship and face the high tier ships.
Well, so the other
I think wargaming could do more to help these newer players out to get better.
I think the other
They could do
question
a lot
is, do these new players want? I mean, like,
Mm,
I
I
Nice.
mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't. But the real thing is here, they don't even have the opportunity. Like there is.
mm,
how
I
many of
would
you
argue
guys?
this.
I just want to ask real quick, post in chat, guys. Unofficial poll. Actually, no, I'll make the poll. Check. Go ahead and say what you're gonna say. I'm gonna make.
So I have a bit of a loaded question. Give me, you guys who are in the call, and chat of course can answer if that can catch. But do you remember any games where you actually learned how to play through tutorials?
Yes, many.
Tell me,
War
give
Thunder.
me a game.
There you go. War Thunder.
Okay.
War Thunder teaches you how to fly planes, how to take them off, how to land them, how to do bombing runs, all that sort of stuff through multiple tutorials. And it teaches you very important skills you use throughout the game. And it's very comparable, I'd say, to World of Warships and wargaming games.
Okay. Can you give me another one?
I think the Magic Arena is quite good to tell you about how to play the game, although it's
Yeah, but
completely
Magic,
different.
You literally
Mm.
can't play Magic without someone explaining because it's one of the most complex card games, right?
I know. I said it doesn't really fit the theme, but that's the first thing that came
If we
to
can
my
be
mind.
honest, and War Thunder as well, I would argue because War Thunder leans heavily on they're trying to make like VG games are arcade. War Thunder is like arcade leaning much more into sim. And
Well, they have
I mean, I don't know about you, but I
multiple-
skipped all the tutorials in War Thunder and I just played it the way I played it.
So War Thunder has multiple tutorials. Some are for arcade and some are for realistic and stuff like that. So they really do them for everything. I mean, but the point is you could make multiple tutorials if you really wanted to for World of Warships, like one for like how do destroyers work with smoke, like pop your smoke, how does torpedo lead work, and all that stuff. And it wouldn't be difficult to make stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it would be such a big resource for players that wanted, like you said, the opportunity to use those things, to learn a little bit. And it's much better than having, like when I started the game, I started as a destroyer player, and I was awful because everybody in chat was like, oh, rush the caps, get the caps, like people just sitting in smoke and getting torped. Like I thought that's what you were supposed to do as a destroyer because that's what people tell you to do in low tiers, like when I started, right? And then as I got better and met more people in the community and figured out like what I was doing wrong, was like, oh, okay, so I shouldn't have been doing any of that stuff that everybody keeps telling me to do in chat.
Yeah, but
Right.
some people told you to do it, and then the other people told you not to do it, and you realized one side is more like better or makes more sense. So if you play the tutorial, would you listen to people still, or would you blindly follow the tutorial? I mean, I'm sorry, but like this, we're talking about a very complex game here. Like, first of all, you can teach people basics. I agree, and there could be a tutorial that can help you with that. By the way, whenever you guys say this would be easy, that would be easy, like, I'm sorry, but like, I'll say we don't know how easy things are on the other side. Like, I'm sorry, but like, this is something that I've learned during my time in wargaming. You think like a lot of us think that some things are super easy, nowhere near the reality, because you have so many limitations in terms of resources, but also in terms of the engine, for example, and whatnot. So please try not to
I understand, and you're right. It may be difficult, but the game has been out for a long time, right? and you look at other comparable games that have a little bit more to offer in the sense of tutorials, and frankly, as far as would you rather listen to a tutorial or a player, tutorials, 100%, because it's from the horse's mouth, right? It's not like passed down from player to player like, oh, try to do this. It's from the people who made the game telling me
Oh.
how the game is played.
Okay,
So-
I work for the company. Sorry, just quickly. I work for the company as a community engagement manager. We'll turn back time a bit. And then you ask me what to mount on your ship, and I tell you the modules, and then Solitude tells you, well, this is wrong. You should actually mount this. So are you going to listen it from the horse's mouth or from the actual amazing player who knows what the crap they're doing, pardon my French? This, like, look, you have certain things in the game. Like right now, we have commander builds. You always had suggested modules, and what you do, you go to the page that was made by Soli, by Kinimod, by Seraphis, right? So people who actually look. If you expect people who make the game to know everything about the game, you are living in an impossible dream. Like, this is literally because these people develop the game. They have to lean on their community the player base, to try and figure out what the best solutions are. So what tutorial is a Kickstarter to learn new mechanics. And after that, I'm sorry, but you shouldn't listen to tutorial. You should listen to people that you trust and you know they're good at the game if you want to get better. This is where YouTube comes. This is where Zath comes. Sorry?
Why not both? Why not have a good tutorial, and then if a tutorial is like literally missing some pieces that aren't really explained, then you can listen to the professional players.
Yeah,
No.
I agree with that.
Something else I want to say too that's important is there's a lot of people that don't understand that you should be able to make a choice for yourself, and that's one of the things that I always say when we look over builds or plays that have been right, is here's what I might recommend, but let's see how you play the ship with Grunty. I'm going to use you as an example. Let's see how you played that ship without Last Stand, the Jaeger, right? You recognized, hey, this isn't working for me. You talked through why that didn't work for you. That one case with that sub that pinged you and got you up the butt with a whole bunch of torpedoes while your engines were disabled. So the important thing about that is, yes, you can look at people that say, oh, well, I would never play with Last Stand because you just DP if you need to. And then you look at your own experience and say, hey, I need this as a player. A good example for me is Priority Target. I always use Priority Target, even though people call that a crutch. I don't care. It helps with my own situational awareness. I found a way to make it work for me. So, again, that's where I think it's important for people to be able to make their own decisions. Nifty, I want to comment real quick on your tutorial thing. I think one thing we have to remember is it's very difficult to understand how much needs to go into a tutorial. Chag mentioned that new players are much more quick rewards, get in, get out, whatever. So if you make a tutorial that takes 3, 4, 5 hours to get through, which, let's be real, each player's radar, to teach players hydro, to teach players all the different consumables, frankly, the spotting indicator, what concealment means, what a citadel is, how to DCP a flood, how to DCP a fire, why not to do a DCP for just one of those. You're talking about hours for somebody to get. Would you want to play a tutorial that takes you hours before you can actually play the game?
So, I'm going to go back to War Thunder here. All of the tutorials are split into segments, and you get rewards for completing each one. And I even played the tutorials for things that I didn't even intend on playing. Like, originally I wasn't really intending to do the naval stuff, but I did all the rewards for naval stuff anyway, because I was rewarded for my time. So if you make a system simple like that, where you give a player, here, take 100 doubloons for completing this half-hour tutorial, you betcha people are going to absolutely jump on that.
Okay.
Some people will. I wouldn't, for example.
I probably wouldn't. So I had a poll up.
Not for 100 doubloons, but I think you could do some basic stuff in tutorials, like.
Man,
like
World of Tanks have tutorials. I'm like, can I end this? Let me skip. I get frustrated. Sorry.
For example,
Yeah, you wanna get in the
an armor angling tutorial, where it shows you what happens if you angle and the AP bounces off your ship, or one where you're broadside and you get
But, okay.
instantly deleted.
But you have this. You have this in the game. Zat, are you in the game?
Us?
Can you show us the game? Sorry.
Is there armor angling in there now? If yes, I apologize.
The thing is, they're like basic tutorials in the game. So if you go to menu, I think they're placed in a very wrong place. But you know the cogwheel, yeah.
Oh, the cog.
Sorry, I have a little bit delay.
You
Help?
mean the video
And then
tutorials?
you have video tutorials there, which is at the bottom.
Ah.
But those are videos, right?
Yeah, videos
Yeah,
aren't really tutorials.
How do you
if you ask
want
me.
to explain to people how to bounce shells, please, in game? How do you think you can actually bring a player to a perfect tangle visually in World of Warships to get the
No,
bounce
you
off
just-
of the NPC, or I don't get it. What do you want?
You just place the ship there unmovable and have the NPC shoot at it and at various
Yeah.
angles. to see
Trust
the
me, it's
effect.
not just. It's not
Grunty.
just. With all the RNG and everything, you just can't have that. The best thing you can have is a video. Now, do I think that the videos are
can't-
not conveniently
on,
placed?
Jack.
I do. Okay.
The best thing you can have is
They-
video?
You had your special modes. Don't tell me that there isn't a game where an enemy ship suddenly has super accuracy. That's in the game. Like you can make the bot pinpoint accurate to hit where it
Yeah,
aims.
I would agree with that.
Grunty. So, think of it this way. You can explain all the mechanics to a player, but there's two problems. One, are you going to force them to sit through a 20-part series of learning every single mechanic in the game?
I mean,
Doesn't need to
you
be every
obviously
single
can't
mechanic.
force them to do that. Like they should be optional. But
if it's optional,
but
people will not do it.
I also think like
Optional means
you
no one's
put
gonna do
you put in a reward that is worth it for a new player. For example, the same one as you get from the recruiting station. If you do all the tutorials, you get a tier 6 premium ship, maybe. Like
There you
nothing
go. I would do it
crazy.
again. I would do all of them again, and I already know how to play the game. You just need to make a simple
Also-
reward that's worth your time.
Also, second problem. Okay, now they did that 20-part series. You've just bombarded them with a whole bunch of info. So, did they actually process it?
I feel like that's very
Maybe not.
speculative at best at this point.
It's-
I mean, they
it's
would probably learn
speculative.
something.
Look, Zed can. I'm sure he can back me up. How often do we get people in the stream and we take sweet time, 20, 30 minutes to explain one mechanic, and the guy comes back to you and is like, oh my god, there's so much information. I'm like, don't worry about it. I gave you the info. Now go and play and enjoy, and now you have an idea of what to come back and ask.
So this is a reason why I always tell people, if you want the best way to grow and improve in this game, send me or somebody else who does replay reviews a replay of your game, because I'm seeing it through your eyes. The problem that a lot of people think is, well, I'm not good enough for it. And so what do I get? I get SAT, I get Grunty, I get SFNL. Literally just tear through the enemy and make it look so simple because they know how to play the game. So what am I commenting on? Oh, hey, look, you're dumpstering this person in your Shimakaze, nice torpedo salvo, etc., etc. What I'd rather be doing, no offense to those of you that I just mentioned, what I would much rather be doing is having players like the replay with the Gajimata, who went in the Atlantic in a tier 9 game, YOLO'd into the middle cap, got spotted, radared, panicked, sat, and died in the first 2 minutes and 45 seconds of the game. Because I can explain those kinds of mistakes, and I've had so many people respond to that replay and say, oh, this is totally me. Now I understand why I couldn't, why I shouldn't be doing this. And even when I get a replay like Grunty, like SAT, like SF and others, I will still try to focus on a theme. One or two things that will help that player understand what they are doing right or wrong, or just at least give them something to think about. Because if you give them too much feedback, it really does turn to mush, and it's hard. And plus, you don't want people thinking, well, I'm a terrible player because look at all the problems that Zath found in me. You know what I mean?
I have a solution for you, Zat.
Hmm.
You're gonna love this. I play the game, like I understand the game pretty well, I would say, way above, the new player, but I still YOLO a lot and I play to have fun and I play all the ships in the game. I don't care for the numbers or anything. and I often screw up, and I'll feed you a couple of replays a week, and you can explain in my mistakes. I don't care. You know how I am. Like, you can talk about my mistakes. I will never get offended for that. But then those who actually, because a lot of people will not, you're asking for something. You're asking for me as a new person in maybe community or the game to show how bad I am, right? Well, for us, kind of quote unquote veterans of the game, what do I care? I'll give you the replays, or you might have some other people who would donate replays so that you can explain to your chat what's wrong, with how we play the game, if that makes sense.
I mean, I appreciate that you're willing to do that because that really does help. So thank you.
Sea Raptor makes a really good point that he said, and I quote, "Everybody learns differently. I'm a very visual learner, hands-on learner. Videos help me immensely." So, I mean, some people, yeah, they might be willing to sit through those videos, watch all that, but a lot of other people, let me be real with you. I think I watched one single video that was made by Wargaming. I think it was like to understand smoke concealment mechanics and firing and smoke and stuff like that years back probably. But the videos for me don't really do a lot because I need to move through the motions myself to really understand the mechanics, right? And for me, tutorials are much more of a learning tool, personally.
I'm not delusional. I know that a lot of people wouldn't care for the tutorials. It wouldn't help. For some people, they wouldn't help them. But I still think they should be there. Like, the
Absolutely.
company Wargaming should provide them for those who want them. I know it costs time and effort to make those, and not everything can be taught with tutorials.
Sure.
But
And I mean,
if we increase the progression rate further and further and further with what is possible, I think they should invest something into trying to keep the new players up the pace and help them.
yeah. And I
Just
mean,
my opinion.
there's a ton of information in the game to go around, and I get it. No, you're not going to want to sit people through 20 hours worth of tutorials like SAT Score said. Of course, no, you don't want to do that either, because even if you offer decent rewards, probably most people aren't going to do that. So talk about the basics. Talk about the black and white things in the game where it's like, this is the clear right way to do it, and this is the clear wrong way to do it. Like when you're approaching a cap, there's always a right way to approach a cap and a wrong way to approach a cap. Like simple things like that would really go a long way to kind of help players understand, like, okay, if you go nose into the cap and you go right to the middle of it and you get spotted, good luck now, because you smoke. Okay, now you're radared, you're trying to turn around. Okay, there goes your ship, right? It's just not the right way to do it.
Wargaming has recently done a few really, really dumb decisions that even makes it worse for new players. I'm just thinking about the removal of the classification on the shells in game. Like, which one is AP, which one is HE, SAP. They removed the...
You think that affects a new player?
I'm not sure if it affects new player
You
or
think
not,
the
but
two
the fact that...
letters will actually make a difference in it?
No, but
You have to remember it says HE, and unless you are, or AP, and unless you're you understand what these acronyms are because you're into naval, stuff, then I'm sorry, but like, it doesn't matter it's the same if he calls it HE or yellow shell, and then if you hover over, you actually have the explanation of it. I think people are blowing this out of proportion. Don't get me wrong, I liked it more. With the letters. But I don't think it actually affects.
At least it doesn't hurt them if the letters are here, that they remember, oh yeah, but the red one was my AP, the yellow one was my HE. Like, it serves absolutely no purpose of removing those letters from the shells. Like, it had no benefit whatsoever for anyone that the letters are not there anymore.
Well, someone made the decision to do it, and they have a logic behind it. And I think, as far as I remember, I don't remember like 100%, but I think the logic was the game is very confusing as it is, and I think we can all agree with this. When a new player comes in, it's very overwhelming. and removing any of that clutter potentially helps a new player relax a little bit and play the game at, like learn it, I don't know, easier pace or whatever. Now, would this work or not? God knows, I don't know. But there was a logic behind it, and it just trying something different to maybe help a new player.
I would say
I'm
if
not
that's
sure how removing labels is helping a new player, but
I'm not
what
sure
do
how
I
having
know?
a label, is helping either. I'm sorry,
would-
but like it's the same.
I would
Somebody
simply
had a thought
say
process, right? I guess.
that if it's a problem for you as a player, it needs to be brought up in very back. And
Mhm.
like honestly, I agree with Grunty in that like deep water torpedoes was regular. Like I understand it's a different icon, but even me, I might look at it and forget or not understand. And so,
Mhm.
I agree. There's a lot of clutter in the game. There's a lot of stuff in the game, and maybe that's not one that should have been changed. I've always been a fan of give the players more options, give the players the choice to simplify their
Yeah.
HUD or put more stuff out there. That's why I love
Toggle on
running
off.
a bunch of
Yeah.
mods because
What
then
do you
I
guys think of
get
like
more info.
encyclopedias in game?
You mean like a wiki?
Like more or less, yeah. Like you would search a term or something like that, like torpedoes, and then it would tell you, okay, so
Yeah.
you've got these kind of torpedoes, you've got these kind of torpedoes, you've got these
Any
kind of
EVE Online
torpedoes.
enjoyers?
Well, actually, yeah, I did play it for a long
There
time,
you
but
go.
but
So-
like even things like that, when I looked at a term and I wasn't sure, like, what do they mean by that? Okay, let me check the encyclopedia or something real quick, and I would see like, oh, okay, so that's what that means. All right. And that would also help me along quite a bit if I found terms or something that I didn't really understand. And frankly, when I started playing this game, I didn't even know AP could Citadel for like probably my first like 100 matches. I didn't even know because I was playing some ship where the HE could also Citadel. So I just figured like, oh, well, AP and HE, like they both Citadel. All right. And I didn't know like AP should really be prioritized for that, for instance.
But these
Yeah.
are advanced mechanics, like kind of,
HE versus AP?
For a
Yeah,
new player?
Citadel angles and all that. I know it sounds crazy to most of us experienced players, but this is actually very advanced for a lot of players.
It was hard enough as a new player to make sure I knew where I was sailing while I was shooting somebody.
Yeah.
Like the last thing on
Yeah.
my mind is what shell type I'm using. The first thing on my mind is I don't want to run into that island right there. Or crap, why did I sail behind this island? Because now I can't shoot the guy in front of me. And so I think that the difficult part is how do you scale, these things up to the point where, again, you're not overwhelming somebody, uh, you know, with information. I just want to cut in for a second. I'm continuing to scroll through chat, guys. I'm not ignoring you. I want to read out what Joey said real quick. He says, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but as a new player, this is my honest opinion. I play co-op and randoms for fun, and the players who care so much about win rates honestly ruins the fun because it's just them complaining a ton about how I play. I'm playing for fun.
Yep.
I'm not playing this to be a meta player who knows everything.
And
It's a
that's
valid point.
Yeah, it's a very valid point, and that's unfortunately there's a lot of people in the community that are good and willing to teach and stuff like that. But there's an unfortunate amount of, I guess, kind of veteran players who feel like they have earned the right to, oh, well, I've played, 20,000 matches. I should be winning most of my games, and you're dragging me down because I can't win this game now. Who cares? Just play the game. At the end of the day, you have no control as to how somebody else is playing their ship. It shouldn't matter to you because you don't have the control over it. And you telling them otherwise is really like if you're not going about it in a nice way, why would they bother listening to you at all? If you're telling them how to play their game, it's not your game, it's their game. Let them play the game how they're going to play the game and enjoy their time. And if you're not having a good time because of that, go take a break. And that is seriously what I tell people who complain about that to me, like, oh, I was in this game and this guy dragged me down, this guy YOLO'd. I'm like, dude, if you're not having fun, take a break. It happens. It happens.
Compass Rose 20 said, where's the menu screen that I'm currently showing found in the game? Hit escape, go to your settings, and then video tutorials.
the worst possible place and very badly visible. Like, this is what frustrates me. So now people will hear that, I'm not only shilling for wargaming. I promise I have issues with this game. 100%.
You haven't joined the CC program yet. You're not a shill yet.
No, I'm not planning to do that either.
Oh, really?
But no, yeah. But here's the thing. If you died from, like, we have these video tutorials that are actually, I think they're very good, and they're in a super wrong place. Like, you have to explain to someone, and look, they're barely visible. And I wish there was like if you die in a game from a torpedo, the game set, the game in the first like 100 or 1,000 games tells you, here, click here. This tutorial might help you to not die. And it's like a hydro tutorial, for example. You know what I mean? Like, because there's already, it needs stringing, right? Like, there's already database of tutorials in the game. And I didn't know about these for years.
I had no idea that was there.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had no idea.
And if game actually told you, oh, you died from, I don't know,
Dysentery?
carrier, and you have smoke. So here's a tip how to use your smoke or something like that. And then you go and watch after you actually lost because you did not play a mechanic, and then you get an opportunity to go and watch, and it's already something in game. You know what I mean? Like that. I think that's a missed opportunity. But I'll tell you one thing more, guys, that you need to know, and I think I'm gonna leave because I've been streaming for a while, but I love this discussion, and Zath, kudos for what you're doing, man. This is amazing. But
thank you for coming.
You guys, I'm so happy I caught this. But there is one thing that I might get in a little bit of trouble for this. I don't think this is NDA. I don't care about voodoo.
Oh, okay.
Cover your ears, chat.
We're really friends, so it's
I know.
fine. I just don't want to put anyone in trouble. But here's the thing. Just think about this realistically, and I will just give you a little bit of confirmation. This engine has been working for about 10 years now, because the game did not start 7 years ago, right? It was developed way before that. It was used in the same engine. And this engine, it's been facelifted over and over again. And whenever you guys praise the art team and all these changes, this puts strain on this engine. And I just want to tell you two things. Some things are simply impossible because due to engine limitations. And then there are some bugs that cannot be, or they still don't know how to fix them due to either engine limitations or because of how used this thing is. So that if you fix one thing, it might break some other thing. And I'll be honest, this is not the only game that struggles with this. Like, for example, World of Warcraft in the end had to change their engine or whatever, like make a second version or whatever. There's some other games that did it. There's no solution for everything we think there's a solution to as players of the game. And this is just a very, very sad reality of gaming. It's
So
very
you're
unfortunate.
telling us the minimap bug is never gonna get fixed?
No, I'm not saying that. There's some bugs that are just very difficult to replicate on demand, and that's sometimes the reason why you have to wait for freaking like 8 patches instead of like, next patch or whatever. But there are things that like I'm afraid that some things like aiming, and missing, some of these things, I don't know. Maybe they'll find a way, because there are people who work very hard to figure out how to find additional resources in this engine to change something for better. But sometimes this is not possible, and it's so sad. But that, like, there's a limitation.
The Big World engine is old. Like it was basically already old when the game launched, right?
True. And I think wargaming stretched it to impossible. Like, I don't think any of us could imagine a game will look and work like this.
I'm kind of curious. Like World of Tanks, like a year or two ago, they completely changed their engine and upgraded the game to basically move it to a different
resource
engine.
cost, and you have to think about, does it pay off or not, because you're a business. And with that said, love you all, guys. If I get animated and all, or like I just love the game as much as you do, and I'm very very excited about it always. And I come from Serbia, so we have a problem with like articulating our speech. Sometimes it sounds very aggressive. Just understand that that's not my idea ever. And Zat, thank you so much for having me. I'm gonna drop out, have some dinner, and yeah, I might stay in the stream a little bit longer. And you guys knock yourselves out. This is amazing. I love it. And hi, chat, and thank you for being patient with me.
Nice
You're
chatting with
welcome,
you.
Jack. Anytime.
Take care, guys. I'll see you around.
It's funny because we were talking about this before, and Chegg was mentioning how he wanted to do something that was kind of like a podcast where people could come in, anybody in the community, and talk through it. And I'm like, dude, I do this. So there you go. Real quick, one more thing I'd like to say, and then I'd like to give you guys a chance for concluding thoughts so we can actually start playing the game for a little bit, if that's okay. Plus, I have dirty water I need to go get. But one thing I want to mention real quick is it would be nice. Oh, there's history to the game. That's kind of cool too. It would be nice if these could be somehow organized, like
organized
Yeah,
or
they're
index
very
or like
cluttered.
a search function. Like you
Yeah.
can just search. Oh, please show me everything that is related to torpedoes or whatever.
Like I like that game basics is up here, but tips and tricks and the X key to me, like it's probably for later, you know. But everything's a little bit different for everybody, and I get that. Like, but I think that would help. Anyways,
Yeah.
final thoughts, and then let's move on.
Speaking of final thoughts, just in case you forgot, we never got to the end of the dev blog.
Oh, I didn't forget. As a matter of fact, while somebody was talking, and I apologize, when somebody was talking, I did read through the rest of the dev blog, and quite frank, I don't know that there's any, like, to me a lot of it's just kind of boilerplate. Like this is that, last year a player got more than 180,000 in value in rewards. Okay, so whatever, they just don't like the balance of the economy in the game, and hey, that's partially on them for putting it out there and letting it happen. So whatever.
Yeah, I think the only thing they still added, what might be relevant for some people, is that you can spend the tokens on some combat sickness bundles that wasn't mentioned before or something like this.
Yeah, I see that.
But yeah.
I think we got to the
So-
main crux of it, and then we got off topic talking about so many different things. I've been taking notes, and I think I have to cut
As
this
we do.
somehow into like 3 different, maybe 4 different YouTube really. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. Anyway,
For me, I think the big deal for me is that I know a lot of people have their qualms about like submarines, about CVs, and this stuff and the other. I will say, yeah, I think they need some balance work on that, but that's not really where I think my big gripes are. I think my big gripes are as the game in the past couple years, I've seen a lot of hits to the economy in the game, making it harder for new players to progress. And that I think is kind of
No.
backwards, personally.
No.
I think overall it's the opposite. I think that
it's definitely the opposite.
I think the bigger nerfs
Do
again.
you really?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's way too like.
It's
From
always
an
been pretty easy to
experienced
grind up
player,
to 10.
it is too easy for a new player to get to tier 10. And by too easy mean it's, as I explained earlier, they get there much faster than they get they move along on their learning curve.
In my opinion,
That's my main issue. Like you have good players, you have bad players, and you can have a bad player at 10,000 games at tier 10, and you can have a player with 200 games at tier 10. And that's it. And if he's bad there, that's not even his fault, because he just never get the chance to learn, because he got there way too quickly. That's my main issue.
So what about nerfs to like things like super containers? You're okay with that?
I don't like it.
I understand why Wargaming did it, because like Jack explained that perfectly earlier. Back in time, you got like 7 super containers on your first anniversary event because it's all the ships you had. And this time you have like 80 tier 10 ships and you get 80 super containers. So Wargaming is giving out 80 times more than they get 7 years ago, and they want to put a stop on there and said like it's getting too much, we have to halve the rewards. Do I like it personally that I get less from a super container? No. But I can understand why Wargaming is doing it, because like it just gets worse and worse for them. They would have to give up more and more and more and more free stuff.
Sure.
And
I
then
mean,
more and more free stuff doesn't benefit the newer players because they only have like 3, 4, 5 tier 10s anyway. It would only benefit the players who already have all those ships because they would get more.
yeah. I mean,
Surely the new player gets less now too because the super container rewards are halved, but it's a lose-lose situation for Wargaming. Whatever they do, it's gonna be bad.
yeah, I just don't like to see hits the economy. And I know players. So let me rephrase, because I think you're right. It is easier to grind to tier 10 now. However, economy wise, overall, you earn less because you're only able to equip. It used to be you could equip something that will give you an XP bonus, that would give you a credit bonus, that would give you a free XP bonus, and you can't do that anymore. So if you just want to equip XP bonuses, yes, you're going to get to tier 10 faster. But overall, in the economy, you are earning less when you think about in terms of all the different resource types
Yeah,
in the game.
and
A
again,
red
this
booster now gives you more than all the other bonuses previously combined.
No,
Granted,
false.
yes,
I've done the
yes, it's
math
true.
myself.
I have done it too. It gives you more.
So you get more. So you're saying that compared to the way it was before, if you put on a camo that gives you bonus credits, XP, and free XP, and you put on a bonus right now that gives you XP, you're going to get more credits and free XP?
No, you have to use all the 4. All
You can't use all the 4 anymore. That's what I'm
Of
saying.
course you can. You can
Yeah,
use
you
a
can.
red booster for 8 credits. You can use a red booster for ship XP. You can use one for commander XP and one for free XP, and you can mount all 4 of them.
Well, you can't combine them in the way the system was before, though, right? Like
They
you could
don't scale
combine.
off each other anymore. Each scales just on the base XP.
right. It
But
used to all
with the
scale on
amount of
regular XP. Is what I'm saying.
but with the bonus
Yeah.
they provide, scale on the base XP, the total you earn per battle is still higher than with all the other bonuses you previously had. Now, the red bonuses are super, super rare,
That is the thing,
but
because I did my math with blue bonuses, to be honest.
with red bonuses you exceed it. But what people seem to forget is like in order to get the high bonuses in the old system, you had to have these 3 special Asian lantern camos or mosaic camo, whatever, and you had to mount all the dragon signal flags on top. So you had to mount much more of these things, which in return would like you couldn't also really buy them only during some events, or you could get them in containers. So it's not a sustainable thing to use red boosters, and it wasn't a sustainable thing to use all the bonuses in the old system because you just couldn't get them. So I think the comparison is a bit flawed to begin with.
Right.
They are
Now,
very different systems, yeah.
I do want to get back to you're talking about, and Nifty, you said it's hurting that the change to the economy are hurting new players more. I agree with Grunty actually. It's hurting veteran players more than new players because new players don't have much anyways to really lose out of. And yes, they you know maybe get a little bit less XP per game or whatnot. They're still getting to tier 10 really freaking fast compared to what they used to.
And why
And
is that hurting a veteran player, though?
the fact that new players are
It's
getting
not
to tier 10?
it's not hurting the veteran player, it's hurting the new player because they progress too fast without the chance to learn the game. Like
The only way
it's
it's
not
hurting a the only way it's hurting a veteran player is that veteran player goes after the new player. Like I just saw somebody in chat. How is it that there's somebody with 32 games in Montana, and that they're in Montana? Look, the whole idea is, um, a veteran player stands to lose more from nerfing things like super containers because they can get more super containers. And that's exactly what Grunty was pointing out earlier as well. So what we are doing is what I've circled here. What Wargaming is doing is that they are nerfing super containers, they are nerfing rewards for veteran players. And they're doing it in a way that really isn't going to impact new players that much compared to a veteran player that's got everything, or most
It-
things.
And yeah, and if you look at it, like the veteran play, even with the nerfed rewards now, they're getting so much more than they got 4 years ago. Because they didn't have because they're getting so many more containers these days. It's really a problem of the veteran players. They want more and more and more and more. It's never enough. We always need more. And
And
I don't like this mentality.
at a certain point, it just gets silly. And I mean, I'll be one of the first to say that. If you look at my YouTube videos, some of the craziest things I've done, like when I set all the lines that get double research points on everything, or last Christmas when I spent $4,000 worth of doubloons so that I could convert all of that into roughly what 400,000 steel. I mean, it's hilarious. It looks funny. But I haven't spent any of that or much of that, and I don't really care. Just it's fun to play with. You guys know I'm smug. I like to play with things, but whatever, you know.
I honestly don't think that, as a veteran player, when I see somebody with a couple hundred battles in like a high tier match, I don't care. I'm like, oh, cool, a new player who, was pretty serious about wanting to get into high tiers. And I'll just one shot them with my Yamato. Like, it's just part of the game. I don't care that, if they did something silly and they get blown up and they're on my team, okay. It really doesn't bother me too much because I see somebody new and passionate who wants to play the game and get into the higher, like the deep end of the pool, right? And if they're not ready for the deep end of the pool, well, they jumped in anyway. Okay.
Yeah,
So I don't have a problem with that.
but that's the problem. Like if they jump in the high end of the pool, right? But they get destroyed immediately because they don't know what they're doing. And my concern is that this player at some point says, yeah, I don't want to play this anymore. That's not fun for me. I get destroyed every single time. And the reason for that is because they got denied the chance to actually learn the game.
I mean, I
So
feel
they
like we're going
prevent
back into
themselves from
circles,
getting
though.
to
They
learn
are.
that. Like,
We're
So
going in circles
yeah.
because, I mean, why not have the resources to teach again? And then we're going back to that, right? It's
So-
it's a sense of make it harder to get to tier 10 or give people the proper learning tools they need.
By the way, I looked it up. I was actually really fast on getting my first tier 10 because I could check the old Kagero stats at tier 9, and apparently it took me less than 60 games in it. But I already knew it from the beta playing, so I had like a 70% win rate in it.
so
If we scale it down to 50%, then I would have probably needed like 80, 90 games playing in a tier 9 ship to get to tier 10. These days, I can do it in,
8.
I think I've done it in less than 10 with red boosters.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When I reground all my lines at 200% first win bonus with all reds, I want to say it took me 8 games. Literally just played 1 or 2 games in a ship, first wins, and then bumped on to the next. So you can absolutely do it quickly. I want to take a quick moment and say about 15-20 minutes ago, I said, let's move to final thoughts. And we're still, once again, going back into an argument here. So I think it's time to move on. SAT, Rob, you've both been very quiet. I want to give you guys the floor. And then I'd like to kind of end this and actually play the game if that's okay with you guys.
I'll go second.
All right, Rob, what do you want to say? Good talk. All right, SAT. Oh, no, wait, you are there. What do you want to say, Rob?
I don't think I have anything to say.
Great. All right, SAT, your turn.
So, whatever your opinions on how Wargaming's doing things, just remember it's a lot easy to give ideas, but it's harder in practice to implement them. So, just try to be more understanding if Wargaming doesn't if they don't take your suggestions 100%, it is what it is. You've done your job, you've given them your opinion, but they may not act on it because maybe someone else disagrees, maybe they don't have the resources, maybe ancient coding will mean the game explodes if they try it. So, yeah. Just kind of be more realistic on, just make sure you're, uh, expect realistic things. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Okay. So, guys and chat, please, I need your help for a second. Because we've been talking for 2 hours and 5 minutes. What are the main, how can I break this up into smaller bits? I've got dev blog changes, and then we got off track, and we started focusing on why do we want less rewards. And we spent a whole lot of time talking about tutorials. Is there anything else I missed?
Don't think so.
I think those are the main.
Why do you have to break it up?
Because nobody's gonna watch a 2.5 hour YouTube video.
We've been going at this since like the beginning of time.
Just make a clickbait title.
That's
Title
well,
it "Former Wargaming Employee Spills Dirt" or something, and people will watch.
It's-
not for
Concerns.
Sorry,
not when
Jack.
they see a 2 hour and 45 minute video. I'm just saying. The way
all
this is right
secrets
now,
revealed.
cutting it up 3 ways, it's even hard to, get that time down to like 45. Some of you will, Voodoo. Well, I appreciate that you would, sir. Thank you.
I'm not sure if YouTube itself would like 2 hours and 45-minute video.
I've seen 4-hour videos on YouTube. Not that I've watched it, but they exist.
I mean,
So I don't think YouTube is gonna have a problem with it.
no, I used to put my old streams up that were 6 hours long, and I have, till to this day, 35 people that have watched it. I'll put out a replay that's 20 minutes long, and there's 35 people that watched it. So to me, like, length of the video is important, factoring in you as the quality of language, and I need to thank all of you guys for not swearing. This is like a first in a long time for us. Grunty goes wild and spills the beans. Wargaming doesn't want you to know this.
Keep my name out.
But in any case, seriously though, I think those are the main 3 categories. I'm gonna have to spend some time to go back and re-listen to all this and figure out where I can cut things, whatnot. But try to pare it down. But in any case, if anybody thinks of anything else, please by all means mention it. Okay. All right. Cool. Well, I need dirty water. I think a lot of chat needs dirty water after the talk.
I
that
think
we
I
had.
need some now, yeah.
That's what I mean. Like I think we
Sounds
all,
like
I'm so passionate for this game, I'm so passionate.
Sounds like a good idea.
we all are, which is why we're here, which is why we spent so
Yeah.
much freaking time talking about this stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's awesome at the same time.